All right. Well, the starting the channel at right before Christmas seemed like a good idea because they just say you just start your channel. But anyways, yeah, that was in hindsight not the greatest idea because then I just lost all steam and didn't do anything. But anyways, so the thing I'm working on today is I've been wanting to figure out how to be able to just dump a bag of cans into my can crusher and walk away and have them get all crushed exactly the way the recyclers like them, which is stand the can up and just crush it down like that. They won't take the ones that have been folded, crushed like that, or on its side. Kind of like that. They don't like that. They want that. They want it as flat as can be, so the maximum load, they're getting really picky. And so anyways, so basically I tried to do a hopper that I drop cans in. They get stuck. They don't feed with gravity. They get every which way and it gets a mess. And so then I was coming up with a conveyor belt idea that'll feed it up into it so that way gravity's not negatively affecting the cans. And so I started just without filming because it's just another thing when I get going to do a project. I'm just thinking about the project, not filming it because I'm still not used to filming. But anyway, so I started messing around. I made this conveyor belt out of PVC. I got a little wood sprocket in there that I cut out on the CNC, and it kind of worked, but it didn't really. And so I basically have been wanting to get integrate bicycle chain because when we buy storage units we get a ton of bicycles and it's insane how many bicycles there are, and they're always broken. They're always taken apart. They have parts missing, and I've gotten all of the tools for working on bikes, the chain breakers and master links and sprockets and all sorts of stuff. So basically I started working on integrating bicycle chain, and what I'm working on right now is basically I guess you'd call it a conveyor belt. It's not really a conveyor belt because there's no belt. It's an elevator, I guess you'd call it, for the cans. And then these right here, these are just pieces of wire that was laying around. I straightened them out somewhat. I mean, they're not straight by any means. This is not new. This is bent up and straightened to the best of my abilities, or as much as I care to. And then I just got, I don't know if you can see it, but probably not. I got little marks on here with a black marker, and those are just bend points. And I just bend them by hand. And this is the end result after I bend them by hand. It's just this little rectangle with two little tabs there. Pretty simple, easy to make. I worked on for like 5 minutes building a jig, and then I was like, all right, this is not doable because it's just too much. And so I just take the Let me grab my channel locks real quick. Or no, not channel locks, my pliers. So I just take the pliers and bend it like that. Get somewhat of a 90 going. And then put it right there. Gotta make sure you're always bending in line. Otherwise you'll have a really funny looking thing. And you just keep working your way around. And the cool thing is it's wire, so you know you can just, without bending it too much, you can easily manipulate it. And then the last one, just have to try to push it right at the so then it's all just messed up, but you can just sit there and bend it. I measured it out so there'd be a little gap in the middle, and so then what I'll do is, let me take you off here for a second, flip you around. Alright, so we've got, I bought these from Surplus Center, these sprockets here. They were 75 cents advertised, but shipping basically put them up to a little under $5 a piece. But they're for bicycle chain. And as much as I'd love to be able to take sprockets from bicycles and integrate them, it's not that convenient. And then I went to Ace, because Ace is the only place that sells flange bearings. I wanted to use bearings, but they want $7+ a piece for bearings. And so this tube is square tube, 5/8 inch, and the wall thickness basically makes an inside dimension of little over 1/2 inch. And so basically that's going to be my bearing, is a piece of square tube. I haven't welded it yet, but I still have to figure out ways of being able to disassemble it like you would a bicycle tire to change a flat. I need to be able to have a removable piece up here so I can disassemble the whole entire thing. And then this little guy in here is my conveyor belt that I made out of 2 pieces, or a bunch of wood cutouts from hole saws. I made just a long cylinder and then drilled out the center to 1/2 inch, and that's what that is. Again, pieces of pipe. And so I tore the sanding belt, which sucked, so basically there's a tear right there, but this is gonna help push the cans out of the hopper I'm building, and then the can's gonna come to right here. I have a volunteer. Basically the can is right there, and then the conveyor belt's gonna just push the can down like so, and then push the can into position, and then along comes the the paddle. I'm going to be putting a lot more paddles on. There's the paddle right, the one paddle I have welded to the bicycle chain, and it's going to come up and it's going to just push the can up here and drop it right into right here. I'm going to put a little tiny bit of tray right here, and then that elevator is going to be coming right here. And because any length of tray will allow the can to tilt to the side, and I need to avoid that. So it's just going to be a little bit, I'm going to still keep the arm here that prevents the cans from getting into the can crusher prematurely. And the only thing I'm going to have to do is use motors to run the little conveyor belt and the elevator. And I'm thinking I'm going to have limit switches so that the elevator doesn't catch half of a can. It needs to be able to catch the whole can. And if the can's not in position completely before the elevator comes along, see, like if the can's, oh yeah, if the can is like halfway like that and that comes along and hits it, yeah, it's binding up right there. So there needs to be a switch or a sensor that will detect that there is a can in position. And then I think I'm going to have to use an Arduino to run the motors, because once the can gets past the sensor or the limit switch, you know, the dip switch, then it's going to stop. So basically, once the can hits the switch, that'll run the circuit for a certain amount of time, and then it'll stop. So it'll move it to where the next paddle gets into position, and then clears the space, and then the next can gets pushed in, and then moves up again, and again, and again, and again, and have it, you know, keep up with a can crusher, which likes to move pretty quick. So anyways, I'm going to try to get back into making videos. And another issue I'm going to have is with my hopper, the cans will get stuck sideways, so I'm going to have to build, I'm thinking I'm going to build like rollers on the hopper on two sides, so that if a can does get stuck, they'll be powered and they'll make the can go up on one side and fall down in. I've already tested this with a little conveyor and it worked rather well. So, but building conveyor belts is hard, because if you've ever used like a belt sander, you have to sit there and adjust it so that the belt stays centered, because if it's not adjusted correctly, the belt will track to one side and start rubbing on either side and destroy itself. And so rollers that are just powered are easier than trying to run a belt. And so, and that's another reason why I like the chain, is because the chain is not a belt that's super wide. It's narrow. It's rather easy to set up. And this looks really cool. So I'm excited. I'm going to work on this. I'll try to shoot some video of working on it. I'm going to be, these welds right here, the actual chain, is focus. This right here, it's not focusing. I don't know. I might have to clean my lens. This one's blue, so this metal right here is nice and hard, but the pins are soft, so I just weld to the pins, and that works. Like, this weld right here. Let me see if the film is dirt. I think it's a bit dirty. Let's see, did that help any? Not really. Anyways, it's barely tacked on there. So mainly I'm going to be welding to the pins, and I think it'll work. So anyways,